And then which takes us to this with the big team, Benno, you know, Jimmy Uso being the one to pull that trigger on Roman Reigns. And, you know what, obviously, I'm going to let you go first because you know what I think of it. You talk it down, go on. You talk it down.
I thought there was going to be more coming there.
No, I'm waiting. I, you know, honestly, I could go on all day about it because this is the stuff, boy. And I'm not even, you know me. This is the stuff what keeps me going every week watching wrestling. This is the story. I know it's turned into capitals, Benno, dots in between the letters, but this is what I live for, and it just keeps it going, though, Benno. There's so much stuff you can do. No, it's not. It's not. People want long term. I know, you know, you're going to say it's this too long and stuff like that. But
yeah, absolutely.
Especially for WWE, though, Benno, to do something that makes
people
sense.
Want cold water, they don't want ice.
No, see, we can go on so many tangents about this, Benno, because you think it doesn't make sense, which I can't believe. It makes total sense. He didn't need to lose these belts. Really?
I think you've got you've got a fundamental, like, I think you think this is more complicated than it is. It isn't. It makes sense. It's just not good. Like,
it's outrageous.
Like the individual performers are still very good. That segment on SmackDown you talked about, I'll share your praise for it. Very well done. This angle itself, I mean, you've got to be able to get past the fact that basically every WWE main event that involves Roman Reigns now has this trope where the referee goes down for 45 minutes while they then sit down and have a big chat. Like, that's what they do. You know, I don't think that's as creative as his soul, but it's as black and white as that. That's what they do. And they insert like these monologues and do this stuff. It's not hard to understand what they're doing. The story is that the bloodline, you know, is imploding and that the Usos have finally had enough of Roman. And yes, there's the whole like, oh, isn't that interesting that it's Jimmy rather than Jay that pulls the trigger, and he does it on behalf of Jay, and it was very emotive. And again, very well done in the moment. But yeah, like there's just no part of this story that makes more sense, and that's what I mean when I mean sense.
Yeah, I know.
With
you're saying that
Roman Reigns as World Heavyweight Champion, like it is quite clearly, I think, at this point, a story that was laid out and booked with the idea, and I think this goes back to WrestleMania. Roman Reigns, if he'd had lost to Cody or maybe even Sammy earlier, but let's say Cody and lost the belt there, he then took 6 weeks off. Yeah, that would check out with Roman Reigns having lost that match. He didn't work the next pay-per-view. That would have checked out with Roman Reigns not being champion. And this story, which the story is that the Usos have turned on Roman Reigns, and that the story around this entire pay-per-view was the fact that Roman Reigns was going to show the Usos how it was done and was going to win the tag belts. No part of that story needed Roman Reigns to be world champion.
But it doesn't make as much sense if he lost at WrestleMania as well, does it?
No, it does. It just doesn't make sense to you because you think Roman's the babyface. Roman is a heel. Roman is a heel.
That's an easy cop-out to say he could just come in, but it literally doesn't. That's why he didn't acknowledge them losing till he come back. And he thought they were all 40. It was sound that he didn't say nothing to them if he's off telly and stuff. And then when he comes back, it's the first thing he says. So it does. I don't think it makes sense if he lost as well. I know you can say he's a heel.
He's a maniacal heel leader of this stable. And in most good stories, which this isn't, your heel in the story can absolutely believe what he's saying and can absolutely talk down the Usos. Like Roman can talk down the Usos and can be, you know, the evil baddie who is a hypocrite, who the story makes so much more logical sense if he's shouting at the Usos for something he did himself, which was lose the title. Like, he could absolutely tell that story is so much more compelling than doing the story and Roman's the champion anyway. Because Roman being the champion doesn't add anything to the story other than some justification for the baddie, which you don't need.
Yeah, but he's still going to defend the title against these, though, isn't he, Benno? I don't know. This is pick and favourites,
and that's terrible.
With Cody.
There's nothing interesting about that. That's interesting.
But there is though, because you might get someone.
The Usos versus Roman Reigns are where this 2-year-long title run ahead of that's where the big loss.
But this one, I know you hate the word, but that's what it started with, and that's what it's hopefully going to end with. I've been saying this since the start. Jey Uso should be the one who beats Roman Reigns if you're going to finish this quote-unquote story we keep saying. That genuinely would be the most, for me, fulfilling outcome. This is where we differ, and this is where most people differ. But if you've been watching it since the start, that makes the most logical sense for him to win. I know you're not saying, is he going to be pushed as this world champion? Not everyone has to be this big world champion for 2 years like Roman Reigns did. He could beat Roman Reigns, win the belt, and then just do whatever. You can, that would make the most logical sense for me anyway. But I love it.
It's 3 or 4 notches below Roman Reigns losing it as the peak to a gigantic, like, next generation star like Cody Rhodes or even Sami Zayn. Like, the Usos are never going to be at that point.
Not Sami Zayn. Not Sami Zayn one. The Cody one, I can see an argument. I can see an argument for that. The Sami Zayn one, no, dead in the water, one off. That made sense in the storyline, whatever. Cody, yeah, I can see the thing, but I'm fine with it this way. But I'm fine with it. I'm sure the company's going to be fine with it this way.
Considerably less interesting.
I don't know.
It's considerably less prestigious. It's a TV show that's 1 season too long. This is season 7 of The Wire that did.
No, you say that, and I said to you the other week on the weekend show, you might have filler episodes of these seasons. This Jimmy Taylor
6 weeks.
Well, I'm saying this Jimmy one on Saturday was the one where you want to stay up and fuck work off and put the next one on Netflix on because of what's happened, and you're going to watch it again. That's what I feel like for this Friday watching the celebration. It's going to follow on, and you're going to get another 2-3 pay-per-views out of it. You genuinely are, though.
I mean, you could have done that without him being champion. Like, they absolutely could have. And
this way we're going to go
story would make more sense.
We're on the magic roundabout. We're never going to change, are we, with each other's opinions?
But you can't justify what you say. I just don't think you're justifying your arguments other than I like it. Like, I don't think there's any argument for what you're saying.
I've just said it makes it makes total sense to me what I'm watching. And I think it's good. You think it makes total sense, but you think it's bad. That's just having different opinions, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's genuinely what that is. There's nothing else to that. You don't think it's good. I think it's good. It makes sense. So that's just the difference of opinion.
I feel like that's what we're here for. What I'm saying. I don't think you're justifying your arguments. Like, what is the justification?
I want to justify it.
Well, why would you, instead of making your next big babyface in Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania?
Because Cody didn't need it, though. I've said this to you before. If any wrestler can handle not winning that and giving the emotion and giving the performances, it's Cody, isn't it?
Well, if any wrestler could have handled it, it would have been Steve Austin against Shawn Michaels. They could have just elongated the story and Steve couldn't have won the belt there and they could have done it 3 years later instead. Then you get a longer story out of it. It would have been a worse story.
I don't know. But
you would have missed that opportunity.
You could go fucking, you're talking about Steve and Cody here. This is like a different level of like.
But you would have missed that opportunity to capitalize on crowning your next big baby face, and they've missed that opportunity to tell a story that has run out of juice. Like until this week when Roman came back, that last 6 weeks of SmackDown, I watched it every week, has been painful. The story has clearly lost all momentum that it had going into WrestleMania. They can recoup some of it. But they could have recouped this element of the story. Cody and Brock could have been fighting over the world title. That would make more sense because Brock would have a reason to have attacked Cody because they've never dotted that I or crossed that T. And this story would make more sense because maniacal Roman Reigns can't accept that he also is a reason for the bloodline going down. You could still have the Usos turn on him. You could still get a big grudge match at SummerSlam. And you could even have one of the Usos beat him because then they don't even need to be world champion. I don't see an argument that makes it make any logical sense that he's still the champion, other than somebody woke up and wanted him to still be champion.
That there isn't juice on it. You saying like when that match does happen, whether it be Jimmy J, that the fans won't be into it and they'd be gagging for them to win. So it's
no more than they would be if he wasn't the champion. They'll be into it to a level, but they won't be into it at the level of Cody Rhodes or Sami Zayn. Like they won't. Of course, the
Sammy one, I don't know. That was in his hometown as well. I mean, you can say what you probably would have been as over, stuff like that. But I don't know. It's just a difference of opinion, Ben, isn't it? And whatever, you don't think I'm giving a thing a justification. I think I have there. It's totally. Do you know what I mean? He should be the champion as well. And maybe these milestones people don't like or whatever. That I know what you're going to say. He didn't have a match for the title on the day of the milestone.
That's another big one. It's the 1,000th day, which was apparently a big reason why they kept the belt on him.
Oh,
and nobody thought to put him in a title match on the pay-per-view.
But it fits in with the celebration and what's gone on, though, Ben. So I don't know. We're going on roundabouts all the time, aren't we? But
I just think fundamentally,
love it to death, mate. But I'm 100% with Benno on this.
Well,
he just isn't making.
You keep deflecting and saying we agreed. Let's actually have the conversation. Like there are the good stories and bad stories, and this is a story. But it's not as well told a story as it could be.
I think it is, though. It is, though. I can't. I don't know what you want me to say. I can't see. Like as I say, if it didn't make sense, or I wasn't enjoying it, I'd be the first person to turn around to be fandom or not and say, listen, that doesn't make sense. I found like plot holes in this that I don't like or whatever. But I genuinely don't see a problem with what's going on. So that's my.
I think it's going to happen in this as well.
There's no risk of Roman Reigns still be. So let's take the story element.
No, not at all.
What's the benefit to Roman Reigns still being champion right now? Like, what are the positives to not having him on the last pay-per-view? Cody Brock not having the title in their feud, and literally not having been a world title program in like 2 months now.
Because the matches haven't suffered after Cody and Brock. They've been amazing. So they didn't need the title for the start. They've still been good matches.
Less important, well received. And Cody's in danger of not being the guy that he could be.
And say if Cody did win the title, let's just say for shits and giggles, he did win the belt. Don't you think the fans would have turned on him more than if he's still chasing for it? That could happen. That could have happened, Benno. You don't know how it would have went. Well, you still have faith in Cody.
He could have get run over by a car. I mean, how's that relevant? Like,
no, but it is though, isn't it? Because as I said, keep saying, if Cody losing, if any wrestler in the world, I keep saying this, genuinely could carry that, it's Cody more than anybody in wrestling. Literally more than anyone.
The Bryan Danielson argument, though, isn't it? Why have him ever win? Because he can get over and losing. Like that was that argument.
That's different because that was like that was the plucky underdog. Cody still carries himself like a star, doesn't he? He's still, as having big, well-received matches with Brock as well. Like I keep saying, Cody. I'd understand if Cody was proper suffering. You think he might be, but he's not. He's not at all.
He's not suffering. He's just not. He's not
thriving.
Doing as well as he could be. What was that, Gareth?
Thriving.
There you go. That's the word. He's not thriving. He's thriving to a point, but not to the level he could have been.
So you think it would have been, say, the same finish happened at Backlash where he got the fluke win and he was the champion? You'd just be as happy with that as well if he was the champion.
I mean, no, because you can criticize two things. I could still criticize that.
But that's where it still comes down to, like, it's the difference, which is obviously the thing of difference of opinion. That's what that is.
It just feels though, Matty, that there was a point where the next stage of the Bloodline story was the dissolution of the Bloodline, and in order for that to really work, they kind of all have to lose their titles, and then you can have the kind of bit of battling between them for it. Now, I personally think, and this is my left field kind of suggestion of the day, I think this is where I reckon they're going to sign Tama Tonga and Tangaloa, to be honest with you, and try and work them into this, which I know sounds like fucking
trying to scare me.
Sadly, yeah, just for shits and giggles, just to see what will happen as a result of it. But I think they'll end up making that even more convoluted. It's hard not to feel if you're not deep into the weeds on a storyline like this.
That's what I mean. No,
it doesn't feel like Jay and Jimmy are anywhere near that level that they need to be. They're not even on even a Montez Ford as a single star. I could kind of weirdly buy more than to a case of Jimmy Uso going for a world title, which I know, there are ways and means you can always kind of rehab this type of stuff. But
they're still building to Jay, though. That's what they're doing. They're still building all this to Jay eventually, definitely.
But you can
argue, if you don't, I'll say to you there.
You can make it logically make sense, but that doesn't make it good.
Yeah,
the problem is you've got better people. You could have gone with Sammy before. That was a better person. Could have gone with Cody before. That was a better person. I'd have to disagree with the Sammy stuff because I came out with the entrance for this of going, this is a guy who, fuck me, like they go to Saudi enough to think actually pushing Sammy is going to be a big thing because the way those fans bloody reacted to him, I don't see, this is the guy you want on top for fucking each one of those Saudi shows. But he's cutting promos in Arabic before the match, doing his own ring introduction, and people are going to lose their shit each and every time. And it's not taking that much for them to do it. So sadly, it always feels like that kind of missed opportunity. And it's also the fact that, again, they went into a whole load of storyline stuff tonight. And again, there's stuff for this they should have been doing at Mania, various other things. Like, could have been doing some of this stuff even at kind of Backlash as well. And it just feels like we've missed, like, part of that.
Do you think Cody still gets it better at the end of all this?
Next year.
Yeah, I think if he wins at SummerSlam, I think it's a bit Lex Luger, that, isn't it? Like, I just think it's lesser than. But wait until WrestleMania next year is an ask. I just don't think the peak's going to be as big as it was at WrestleMania. But yeah, that you know, that's the thing here. I think it's about Cody. It's about this story. It's about everything. I'm convinced somebody will call it a bed the wrong way on WrestleMania and switch things around, because there's nothing in the book in the last 2 months that tells me anyone planned for Roman Reigns to still be champion at this point, including the 1,000 days thing. Does any of this make sense to you, Gareth? I can see you being
I was about to say, Gareth's been quiet for 20 minutes here.
I've just been enjoying that. It's a funny one because, like, obviously, it's a story that I've followed. I was probably more invested in at the very, very start of it. You know, when you're going back and you're saying about when he was fighting one of the Usos at the start and things. I was actually watching it then, and I've sort of like drifted away from it over that time period. All I will say is I'm glad I haven't watched 200 hours of fucking television to get to this point of like 2 years of SmackDown, because the storyline as it pieces together doesn't feel like it warrants that amount of time. But I suppose my only view on it will be, I watched that WrestleMania main event finally the other night. That felt for all the thing in the world that Cody Rhodes should have won that match. When I was watching it, I was just like, how did he not win this match? The crowd was primed for it. Cody just looked right for it. He looked like a star on that scene and everything like that. It just felt totally like he should have won that. But the flip side of the argument is, you look at WWE's TV ratings and things like that over this time period, and they've improved and they continue to improve. So although, you know, the WWE fans, more of them are watching WWE television because of this story and continue to do so, sort of thing. So from a business standpoint, it feels like it feels like it makes sense. But from a booking and storyline perspective, as Benno's detailing that out there, I find it very hard to disagree with what Benno's saying completely. I just feel like I just feel like, to me, one of the Usos being world champion just does not make sense to me, like, at all. Even as the punctuation of this story doesn't feel like it needs to be over the belt. It feels like it needs to be over the positions within the hierarchy family of the family. Rather than over the belt. And also, if it wasn't over the belt now at this stage, that other fucking stupid belt that crap first match was taking place for wouldn't need to exist either. So that would have been another bonus.
But you think on like that thing, Benno, do you reckon Roman must have like some sort of obviously clout that, like, he's not going to be losing this belt with this belt getting created? Do you know what I mean? So is he going to hold it, like you're saying, until next WrestleMania? Is that what it is going to be? Otherwise, he wouldn't have made this other belt, would he?
This hasn't got the legs. The last WrestleMania, I don't think as good as it's been. Like, my favorite TV show in the world could have been 50 seasons, and you go, look, you're getting 50 seasons of it. And I'd be like, no, I was fine with 5. It went from being the best TV show I've ever watched to, you know, something that stuck around. It turned into The Simpsons. That's what this is. It's the fucking Simpsons. We had 10 great seasons, and now we're on season 45. And this time next year, we'll have the same fucking conversation. And it'll be like, oh no, there's this new Uso. He's actually 17. He just came out of the performance center. He's the one.
I'm all in for that. Roman. I'm all in.
You'll be laughing
Dave Uso.
As long as Roman's still champion, Benno.
There's your title. Dave Uso.
That's where we're going. But yeah, that I don't know. We've been on this, like you say, we've been on this this roundabout. As we were saying on our Discord, you know. Like, I'm glad you haven't pulled out your it's been ages now. Why'd you care? After 3 months ago, telling me to let it play out. And that reminds me of Matty's other favorite argument, which is, if you don't like it, don't watch it. And then when I don't watch it, he goes, well, you don't watch it, you have an opinion.
Yeah, so you can't follow it. So you can never win. You can never win. I think everyone knows that, listening. You can never win.
Well, no, I've lost, despite being right. But anyway, there you go. There's your roundabout for this